And so I'll give them questions, and they will answer them for them. The first question is, does functional programming has a future, or it is just a hype? Please.
It's been hyped for 50 years already, or maybe 60. So it definitely has passed. And speaking of the future, the elements of functional programming. 50 years ago, GC, garbage collection, was considered a functional programming feature. So it's definitely like blending into our everyday languages, even when we do not use functional programming languages. Map, for each, stuff like that. I forgot when was the last time I was writing real for loop. These days it's all map, 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 filter, map, map, map. So it definitely has future, it definitely has present. Should you go all in crazy with monads and applicatives and all that? Maybe, but it's not certain.
Okay. I guess it's not about functional programming languages, but approaches in existing languages, functional programming approaches in JavaScript and other languages. And today, functional programming approach becomes more popular in JavaScript. And if you want, and Python and so on. And if you want to create better applications, and it makes sense for you to study new approaches, but it's not about popularity of the new languages. It's about popularity of a new approach.
Next question.
That's it. Next question, right?
Yeah.
The second question is, things in production is WebGL and WebSockets, like, okay, by one. The other thing can be in production. WebGL is first to discuss.
Yeah, sure. WebGL is currently completely ready to be in production, and support is really impressive. So IE starting from 10 and the rest. So basically any mobile phone, any mobile browser supports WebGL. That's cool. It's yeah, this opens the door for technologies like WebVR and highly performant mobile games on the web without any installations.
Actually, production for a long time. For instance, there is a well-known map engine called Leaflet. So Facebook is starting using that right now, and you can search for a lot of talks from Harfonkins, the author of this map library, and so WebGL is in production both for mobile and laptops and laptop devices, table devices.
Next technology, WebSocket. Do you use that in production?
Who is not using WebSockets in production? Oh.
We do, and we regret actually, because you think like, oh, I need speed, I will use WebSockets. Turns out you need stability a lot more than you need WebSockets, and like HTTP polling can get you very, very far, and at the same time, it means like you do not have to have any pieces of infrastructure to be WebSocket aware, and that makes deploying, running apps, reporting on performance, on metrics and all that a lot more easier than they actually are. Of all the big messaging platforms like Facebook Messenger or say WhatsApp for web or something, almost no, or Gmail in Hangouts, they do not use WebSockets. For messaging, for notifications, human beings are actually very, very small, large apes that type very slowly, and HTTP today, these days, is a lot more faster than human beings. So that's my take on that. Don't care. And yeah, HTTP 2 is not WebSocket aware, so I kind of broke the line. Okay.
I have an experience using WebSockets, and we usually do not use WebSockets for data. We usually have both REST API and WebSockets. We use REST API as usual and WebSockets for notifications. It's like Redux, React, Flux actions coming from server side, not from client, from server side. And at the first place, you can you just use it for real time, but you can use our APIs as we design it without WebSockets, only with REST API, just pulling the data every second or something like that. But yeah, I want to say that WebSockets, it's like a good addition for your existing API.
And you
That's
probably
the idea.
heard of WebSockets and Pornhub, like advertising and stuff. No? So.
Yeah, actually, all advertising on Pornhub is delivered via WebSocket in real time. Don't ask how I know it. Fred said.
All right. So the next technology is Elm. Did anybody use it in production?
I was in San Francisco React Conf, and I met only one guy who was using Elm in production, and all I want to say is that these people exist.
Yeah, actually, from business point of value, it is too risky. It's a problem. It's too risky to use Elm currently for production because it's too hard to find devs who speaks Elm greatly, and there is too hard to find devs who speaks Elm greatly because there is no Elm in production. So Elm is great for improving your mindset, but I really doubt we will see something serious in production here in the next couple of years, I mean, because it's too not hipsters. While being awesome, it has a too high level, it requires a high level programmers to perform Elm well.
Not sure. I think it's exactly hipstish dialect for JavaScript, like CoffeeScript was. So
Okay.
And where is CoffeeScript
it's a
now?
new CoffeeScript, exactly.
All right. The new technology. The next technology. GraphDB.
To explain the question, I think that people are asking about any graph-based databases like Neo4j and so on and so on, if people are using them in production, graph-based databases.
Should we use everything in production? It seems like we got a bunch of guys sitting here and like asking, have you done something with Internet of Things? It's been a thing for a few years already. You haven't? Why are you sitting on the stage then, right?
Well, people are...
What are you doing with your life? You have to use everything. So, yeah. Graph databases, sound idea. Neo4j has been used in production by many, many companies for a long time. OrientDB sounds amazing, but there is that blog, OrientDB uncovered facts or something. Just read it and make it yours. So, whatever.
All right. The next technology. Does someone use Webpack 2 in production?
Andrew, you are tired answered everything, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, I've tried to use Webpack 2 in production. Frankly speaking, I was happy that at least they implemented scheme validation, so it tells you, okay, your config file is totally wrong. When you're doing that, it's really awesome. Well, I was greatly disappointing. I was hoping so much about tree shaking, so it will reduce my bundle size. But instead of that, in the production build for my React application, it just increased for approximately 1 or 2%. So for now, I'm greatly disappointed with Webpack 2 in terms of, I was hoping so much there will be some magics which will reduce my bundle size, and it doesn't work. What a mess.
I guess we're still in production because we do not use Webpack 2. And it's a good idea to use stable technologies in production, not just alphas, betas, and or maybe release candidates. So if you want good production, use stable production, use stable libraries, stable technologies. That's the idea.
All right. The question from the Twitter. What's with WebAssembly? Is it going to die?
What's the question? WebAssembly?
What's going on with WebAssembly? Is it
Oh.
dying or is it still alive and it will live?
Oh, it's alive. it's the time when you can try the things you want. Because some browsers implemented it, and only Safari, as far as I know, doesn't say anything about their implementation. But today you have JavaScript APIs to be able to trying things. So you can use WebAssembly models in JavaScript.
I personally think that WebAssembly is going to be a really big thing. And for us as JavaScript developers, it's a bit scary like, where it can go, because once you have this intermediate target to compile web applications, like a bytecode which could be read by any browser, and then you don't need JavaScript anymore. You can develop with C++ and BASIC, and yeah, so programming language doesn't matter.
We will have to develop in CSS only, yeah, from now on. So.
Oh, but yeah, still it's it could change, potentially it could change the landscape of the web significantly.
Well, unfortunately, Ingvar is not here right now.
Not here right now, yeah, correct.
Yeah.
But it's nice to be aware and start studying C++ maybe.
No. I mean, each time
Okay.
each time people say that WebAssembly is killing the web, I really follow the other opinions that WebAssembly is not about killing the JavaScript. It is expanding where JavaScript is weak.
No, I know. WebAssembly is not about killing the web. It's about resurrecting the Flash.
Oh.
Because it's going to be possible to write an action script and then compile to JavaScript.
Oh, by the way, huge shout out to one of the companies here in Kharkiv. I think it's called CA or something like that, and that company develops all the web UIs for almost all the commercial banks in Ukraine, and they require applets for logging in. Please change it, please.
All right. The next technology is Dart. Have you used Dart in production? Or at least have you used Dart?
Okay, you've probably heard of SAS Dart, no? The guys rewritten SAS once again from C++ to Dart because they had performance issues, and Dart VM is significantly faster than JavaScript VM, and it's kind of easier to use and has types and all this high bullshit. So there is a place for Dart, yeah, at least for SAS. So they would now have Ruby SAS, C++ SAS, and Dart SAS, and good luck with that.
Yeah, and the creator of SAS actually said that, well, I'm moving on to something new now. So, and it was a year and a half ago or something. I don't remember. It was in spring, definitely, but it was, I think, last spring, not this spring. So, who cares?
That's it, right? All right, next question, 2.1. How React changed the web?
Yeah, all right. So how React changed the web? So I would say the biggest thing was the introduction of components. So we started thinking in terms of components. Yeah, it has virtual DOM and all that, but it's the simple API that actually enabled us to kind of think things in a different way. Because earlier we might have mixed DOM with state. So now we have clear separation between structure and state, and that has enabled a lot of technology to appear. So we have Redux and all that on top of React. So it's just I don't think it's just like nothing that radical, but it just changed a lot of people's minds in the right direction.
Actually, React is a big step for JavaScript developers, since currently we have a nice component abstraction. Web components are still not there. And on one hand, React is a great thing because we can develop in components. It's a major ecosystem. There are a lot of different kind of components there. You can use it. You would like to use it probably. But the big responsibility is also there. What if we now drop developing and improving web components, like open platform, and switch completely to using a React, which is basically a proprietary framework? So yeah, it's a big risk for, I think it's a big risk for platform and big responsibility for Facebook. They should still support and keep eye on web components and support web components and open standards.
Yeah, how React changed the web. Before React, every web developer was like, this thing is by Google, therefore we must use it. After React, this thing is by Facebook, therefore we have to use it. Other than that, not much has changed, to be honest.
Have you tried the new Facebook sync in production?
Oh, yeah. Webpack 2, it's amazing. I heard about it just today.
We're responding to you. So, next question. Webpack. Assets hot reload. Is it useful after all?
So, actually, I missed like half of it, so can you kind of repeat?
All right. Webpack. Assets hot reload. Is it useful after all?
I mean, yeah. I mean, for assets for hot reloading. Is the you need to clarify because I missed, like, you have to show it. Let me see.
Point 3.
Assets and hot loading. I mean, I mean, this is like the
There's no more details, like that's it.
Yeah, it's the selling point of Webpack for many people that you get that hot model replacement thing going on, and I think it's useful for assets, of course. So I see no problem with assets, but I think it's hyped feature. So even though we have like a hot model, React Hot, and all that, there are still glitches that force you to have like hard refresh. So I don't know. It's like it's mostly useful feature, but the rest it's not there.
Okay, from my point of view, while hot reloading is a good hype feature and it's really cool in Webpack, sometimes it comes at too big price, especially for React components and so on and so on. It's not so clear. For example, supporting hot reload may be quite painful and useless. For example, that's why Create React app, which was developed by Facebook, does not support hot reload from scratch. They're doing live reload instead, because sometimes it complicates code a bit, and well, even with hot reload, there are things in your application which could be hot reloaded and which could not, and that's a pain. In order to make sure, sometimes you always just don't thinking hit refresh and go on. So while the good approach of hot reloading is CSS reloading, that works really, really well. But hot reloading JavaScript code could be a pain and maybe not worth trying it right now if you really don't want to be so hipster again.
Yeah, so I just want to say that I think people overlook alternative solutions. So it will be possible to use perhaps something local storage based, so you can get like most of the benefit with a little bit of effort if you look at different direction. So yeah, there's hype, and I hope it gets better. But as you said, hard refresh is still too common. So, but I hope in a couple of years we get rid of that, but we'll see.
Thank you. So the question from Twitter, without context. Should I be a full stack, or I should stick to one side, front end or back end?
Come to the Dart side, they have cookies and typing.
And typing. Do you have more?
HTML architect.
Go to full stack. There are a lot of interesting tasks there in the backend as well as in the front end. And as for me, it's better to switch contexts from time to time from backend to front end, or to do both of parts in one task. So actually, from a technology user, developer should become a problem solver guy. So most of problems, most of tasks for a product, they usually require to do some changes in both places, back and front end. And as from our experience, from our team, it's better to have full stack developers instead of only backend or only front-end guy. And usually we are using one developer. We're putting developer as responsible guy for this task from the beginning till the end. And it's quite effective for me, and it's good for developers and good for everyone.
All right. New question from Twitter. What about Vue.js? Is it a new player or not?
Front-end team in the company where I work for uses Vue. They are very, very happy with Vue, a lot more happier than with React at this point. So it's promising. It doesn't mean that 5 years from now it will matter. It will probably matter 2 years from now, but 5 years from now, who cares?
Good. Next question. Ready? TypeScript versus Flow. What to use?
You should use nothing.
You should use what?
You should use nothing of them. Type, as for me, so we're living okay with flexible types and with undefined types in strict way. You can have a lot of problems in your code, and types, it's only a small bunch of problems you can get in your project. So anyway, you should write your tests for your application. Anyway, you should do testing and all, and by introducing some strict modes to variables and putting strict types to that, you'll not solve a lot of problems. You'll create more problems, as for me.
Yeah. So when we think about typing, I touched this on my yesterday's talk. So the way I see it is that when we write something, we actually deal with contracts. And when you have like a public component out there, it might be useful to have really tight contracts available, so people actually get proper errors instead of silent failures. So I believe that especially library and component owners have a lot of benefits by using these typing approaches.
From my point of view, I really think that both have an option. TypeScript proved for me really awesome for people who are coming from such languages like .NET stack, from Java stack. It seems way more familiar for them than Flow types madness. But anyway, I strongly disagree that I really think that typing system greatly simplifies the adoption of other people's code, refactoring, and understanding what the hell is happening to the code which was delivered to you for support. And yes, of course, that will not solve all the problems, but, well, I think it's not fair to compare Flow as a type system and TypeScript as a language. So as soon as you're a JavaScript developer, just pick up Flow. As soon as you are picking something from scratch and you are familiar with .NET stack, or you are probably full stack, and full stack it's not always Node.js on backend, maybe TypeScript will be a good option for you. It's like there are sweet pairs like .NET and TypeScript, Rails and Ember, and so on and so on. Things that are pretty commonly used together, and this is one of them.
As for me, as for my company, we use Flow in some of our projects, and it's definitely better for my situation because with Flow we have familiar tools like Babel and so on. Moreover, Flow supports React.js prop types, and you can check them statically, not in runtime. And it's a really good feature that, as I know, it's not supported by TypeScript. So for me and for my company, Flow is a better decision, but of course it depends.
As for me, I think, sure, you can use Flow and add comments like, Flow fix me issue something, or you can import things and have any type in your, the soundness, yeah. Flow gives us the soundness. But I think you should just use TypeScript. It just works, and Flow doesn't.
to say the React have static typing for free with the input properties with the properties types. So it's a cool feature.
Can we stop? Can we move to the next question, guys? That is amazingly unproductive. Can we move over?
Let's move. Next question. GraphQL, is it REST killer?
REST killer?
R-E-S-T. REST.
REST killer?
Like a REST API. They can live together actually. In our project, we are extending our API with some. We can extend our calls to our API with some parameters. For instance, if we got a document which has some links to some other documents, we can specify to expand some parameters. For instance, get customer from another collection from MongoDB and put it into the result. So I think they can live both, and you can extend API with something similar from GraphQL. But as for me, building API just with GraphQL without having like small entities, small separate entities that you can get separately, well, it's also possible. So I don't think it's a killer at all, but it's definitely something that you can use in your API.
GraphQL, our front-end guy added another field to the graph requested, and suddenly on the back we have to do 10 times more calls to the database. And no one knows because that front-end guy deployed the new front-end without us redeploying the back-end. And now the customer calls us in the middle of the night telling that our product is a lot slower and unusable and they want to end the contract with us. Very, very cool technology, I would say. Good job. So yeah, there are issues with GraphQL. It's important, when you use GraphQL, it's important to realize that it still does database requests on the back, and it's important to realize that switching from one graph to another graph may cause severe performance drawbacks, and that's something that we should be aware of. And other than that, it's just yet another thing to request data from the client, from the server. So who cares? XML was fine actually. So.
Thank you. The next question is the same as first, except it's about progressive web apps. Is it just a hype?
Yeah, it's a new way to say cool. It's a new way to say good HTML applications. We used to call them Ajax. We used to call them HTML5. We used to call them what was it? Web 2.0, single page apps. Now it's progressive web apps. It's just like, hey, we added yet another feature to the platform, and now we can do better applications. That's it. So some people will use them, some people will not. Today, almost no one uses inline blocks because Flex is better. Tomorrow, CSS grids will come up, and no one would care about Flex anymore. So, whatever.
Yeah, but progressive web apps is a great step forward for user experience. You don't need to go to App Store to authenticate, to confirm your purchase and stuff, and just get the website. So it's time just to move from React Native to Cordova, right? Yeah, Andrei is really right, is very right, because we added service workers and coded progressive web apps. But it's not just the service workers, it's a rethinking of progressive enhancement, like the thing we forgot with single page applications. So we take offline as what we get and take online as an enhancement. So it's a way of thinking. It's not about technologies. We can do this with Safari, MetaTake, and this app cage or other shitty API, but it's still the same thing.
For me, progressive web apps looks like a message from Google. Hey guys, we see that web developers are currently a bit discouraged by how web is going, and many people switch into hybrid approaches like React Native or something. So, yeah, people are discouraged, and Google sends a signal: hey, we still believe in the web. We try to improve it. We have this. We have money. We have browser, and we still trying to push forward and make web better. So it's really good thing to improve our belief as web engineers into what we do and where we are going to be in a few years.
As for me, progressive web apps is a really cool technology. And for example, if you take this conference and we have this conference has a website with an agenda and so on. But if we want a mobile application for this conference, I guess progressive web application will be better because I do not want to go to App Store and install it. I just want to click, create icon on my phone, and this application will work offline. And it will support native features like push notifications about, for example, some talk is starting and so on. And it requires zero efforts for me, for a visitor of the conference, to install it, to use it. So I believe that progressive web apps is a really cool technology. Or
yet every attendee actually has a schedule printed, and they use paper instead of going to a website.
And it gets outdated very quickly.
Yeah,
and no one cares, so it works out for
no,
everybody.
actually, progressive web apps, it's all about money. Google is trying to keep earning money from web search, so people will not leave their browser. Progressive web apps is all about making money for end customers who will adopt this technology, because with progressive web apps, user can see content faster, so it will buy more things and so on and so on. So yes, I believe in this. This is not a hype. This is a thing which helps business to earn money, both on side of Google and, as I said, on the side of end users, not users, but companies which will adopt these technologies. But so yes, I'm expecting to see growing demand on implementing this because it sells.
Additional question: what about AMP?
It really sucks. I've tried AMP. Maybe who don't know, it's an initiative from Google for especially flavored HTML almost without JS for progressive web apps, so we can all become HTML architects. And this AMP approach, Google promises, okay, we will rank you higher, the page will open faster in our browser, and so on and so on. But this is, frankly speaking, so big bullshit, and it is moving so far away from the way HTML5 or our ecosystem develops that I don't believe in it at all.
I agree with Ilya. It's really a big pile of universal bullshit. But for simple developers, like guys who just do some WordPress shit, it's really great API to make the website like fast enough. Of course, it doesn't follow the latest HTML standards, like picture SRC set. They've re-implemented it because it was slow. They thought that filters are slow, like box shadow is slow, like what the... But the fastest website would be the hand-tuned by like professionals. AMP gives you like a good start if you don't want to like get into it. So it has some market share, like it has some future. But
there is a plugin for WordPress already. Install it. AMP your site. Yay! Lose half of your audience in the process.
All right, then
Yay.
it solves our problem. Let's move to the next question. KharkivJS, junior version. Does it worth it? Should we start it?
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised that I saw this question on whiteboard. I didn't write it, but I thought exactly that having some place where we can grow the future speakers with a community with talks targeted for a bit lower level of audience will be really awesome as playground for us. So we will have more speakers, not in KharkivJS just, but for example, in all CityJS conferences. So yes, just do it. Let's do it. I'm in.
Junior KharkivJS, do you mean speakers, junior developers should be speakers or visitors? What's the
more target? Let's call them junior speakers. People
Junior
who do
speakers.
not have enough experience in speaking and who can't produce, and maybe also target the lower level of audience. I mean, for let's say junior plus developers.
Yeah, I agree with you that junior speakers is a good idea, but a separate conference for junior visitors is not. It does not make any sense for me because I believe here we have a lot of juniors and they want to see people who have more experience. So that's the point.
So there could be one big potential problem in a conference without seniors, that middle developers can try to move juniors to wrong way. So that could be a potential problem. But if we can talk about KharkivJS for juniors as for listeners, actually it's okay to have like a separate threads for bigger audience and for smaller audience. So normally in smaller audience there are more advanced topics for some specialized topics for seniors that worked with concrete technologies. So, but in general, to make a completely different conference, I don't think that could be a good idea because a lot of things can go wrong.
Okay, so what I can say, I'm not sure. Do you have regular meetups on JavaScript in Kharkiv? No, that's exactly the way you may consider to develop, because making a conference, it basically says, hey, we are making a big event. It's going to be a high-quality event, high audience, high visibility, maybe worldwide visibility or Euro visibility. So, and the way to grow and get more fresh speakers is to have this regular bi-monthly or monthly events. And then you have a lot of small speeches about maybe not that meaningful things, but people get this experience. And then it doesn't cost, they're free basically. So that's why you are not guilty. You don't feel guilty for delivering this bad quality content. So I don't think that there is a place for a shitty conference, but place for free and regular meetups. That's probably the way to go. At least that's what I see in Amsterdam, for example.
Give you example from Finland. So we have KharkivJS. It's monthly meetup, and we get, let's say, 3 to 4 speakers. It's like it starts at 5 and ends at 9. So it's like it's easy to access, and I believe it has been beneficial for our community because it allows us to grow speakers.
What I basically think may be a good idea, calling about middle developers moving junior somewhere where we will not find them. It will be maybe a good idea to have some supervising from senior developers in preparing talks for that middle. In that case, it is more like teaching people to speak at the conferences. And that's a great idea. I really feel the lack of such approach here in Kharkiv. And okay, there are some number of potential number of people who would like to talk to the conference but have no skill, have no skills, and have no, let's say, trust in themselves. So just to give them trust, just to supervise it, and okay, I'm pretty sure we will have some new speakers in the nearest future.
Cool. No? Not cool.
I guess a lot of junior developers have some interesting experience, and maybe it's not best practice, but they can share their experience about fails or something like that. It's a first point. The second one, junior developers often has a good, interesting experience, and it's a good experience to be shared, and they are shy to share their experience, and they are not very self-confident to talk in a big conference. So it's a good starting point for them.
Guys, I have a proposition. I mean, how seriously are you about this conference? Because currently we are speaking to this audience, and we can say there could be a meetup in a month. Like maybe here are some people, some junior people who would like to prepare a talk for next month, beginning of December.
Lift your hand up.
Yeah,
I'm
in it.
Who would like to prepare a talk for a meetup?
We have 4 speakers. That's enough.
Yeah, I'm in it for preparing, for helping
So
people
please come to us after
things.
this topic. So
Okay, we are in.
we made it, right? All right. Thank you. Thanks.